So it's very useful if you're meeting with your client or the architect and be able to walk through some revisions. I used to have my project managers and would say, hey, okay, let's submit this and then let's schedule a meeting with the client so we can go through these together and let's get the approval after this call rather than waiting for them to mark them up, then send them to us and answer questions. Let's get on and do a page turn, a virtual page turn.
Welcome to Verify in Field, the Millwork Podcast. Your host, Jacob Edmond, CEO of Ductworks, will be interviewing experts in the industry to bring you insights and knowledge about the latest trends, techniques, and challenges in millwork. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out, this podcast is for you. So sit back, relax, and join us as we explore the world of millwork. Here's Jacob.
All right, we're recording. Welcome back, everybody. I have another second-time guest today, Doug McLean. And we had him on last summer, maybe early fall. I forget what it was, last year. Excited to have him on again and dive a little bit deeper into Bluebeam and some of the tech and options we have available to us in this industry that I think people don't leverage well enough. So thanks, Doug, for joining.
Yeah, thank you for having me back. It's great. It's good. And I do agree with you. Using Bluebeam and using Review is... Too many people, I think, use it as a viewer when it can do so much more, really, than just as a viewer.
Yeah. So maybe to start, recap a little bit, for those who maybe haven't listened to your previous episode. Can you give us the 30-second rundown of you, your career, and then
I am the senior estimator at Town Millwork. We are arguably Canada's largest architectural millwork company. We're based just outside of Vancouver. I am rapidly approaching 20 years as a journeyman in this industry. And about 9.5 years ago, I moved upstairs into the estimating office and have kind of run with it. And now I run a crew of 3, and we bid $40 to $60 million a year in work, and we get maybe 15-20% of what we do. We specialize in large architectural millwork projects, stadiums, large residential developments, the really big projects that, the small 4 or 5 man shop really can't take on. That's Town Millwork in a nutshell.
Yeah. Awesome. And then within that, obviously, Doug, you are what I would call a prolific user of Bluebeam and active in the Bluebeam community. We talked about last time a little bit. One group I think was U Project.
U Chapter 2.
With Chapter 2.
Yeah, it's run by a gentleman by the name of Troy DeGrout. He based out of Minnesota. Troy is one of the best review teachers out there. He is a great guy. We've grown to be good friends after meeting him at XCon a couple years back. It's a really amazing group. You can come in. No question is too weird. There's a good eclectic group from basic users to highly advanced users in there, and we have a good time. We'll talk, we'll solve problems, we'll spitball, we'll get it going on. And it is a really great place to come in. Just find it on the web and sign up. Say that I sent you. Great, please. And I don't get any money for it. It's just points. But come and learn. That's all you can do.
Yeah. And so, for anybody who is interested, I'll have the link here if you're watching on YouTube or in the show notes where you can go back to Doug's previous episode we did together. And we talked a lot there about how he and his team utilize Bluebeam for estimating. And today we want to dive a little bit deeper, into what's possible because, Doug, before we started, as we talked, I've had some other guests on talking about Revit, and we've talked about a lot of other tech in the industry, and how we can utilize these tools, these software tools available to us today to build efficiency in processes and kind of make our lives easier in this industry, and I think a lot of times, specifically with PDF software and estimating software, it's very focused on just that process, right? But one aspect of that is what you're creating is documentation and tools that are going to be used throughout the rest of the project and the rest of the process, right? Obviously, it's to get a quantity takeoff and to estimate the job, but it's also what's being leveraged throughout the drafting stage, the production stage, and all that stuff throughout the process. So, but two, those tools can be leveraged for other parts of the business process in the shop, in the field. And so I think from my perspective, Bluebeam specifically has a lot of capability that people don't either know or don't leverage as a tool. Yeah. One of those being like 3D PDFs. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, 3D PDFs are something that's kind of hiding in review. You can view them. You can do quite a lot with them. You can spin them around, take a good look at something. You can do a quick section drawing. You can get some information. The information you can get out of them is not the same as like your standard orthographic drawings, but you can get good drawings. And again, it's all going to be how they're going to create it. The information you're going to get out is going to really depend on what goes into that. They can be embedded in a standard shop drawing. So you can take a section of your drawing and put that little window with a 3D PDF. Of course, once it's physically printed, you can't do anything with it, but you can view it on a digital plan. So if you're just looking at your computer screen, you can see that and you can just move that around. And I know when I was on the shop floor, sometimes your standard orthographic drawings or even an isometric drawing don't show everything properly. And you want, what is that going to look like from this angle kind of thing? You can actually do that with a 3D PDF.
Right.
Yeah.
And so specifically, this is a feature specifically in Bluebeam, right? So if you have one user today that has, which used to be Extreme, now is
Complete.
Complete.
Yep.
Okay. But there's a couple things that you don't have to have that to view it though.
No, you don't. You can view a 3D PDF. I'm pretty sure even on the basic license. I'd have to look, but I know you can even on the mid-grade license. You can see it. And if you're used to your UI, down in the bottom where your markups list is, underneath that are two other menus. One is your JavaScript, which would only be there if you have Complete, but underneath that is your 3D one. So go into review a little bit and explore it, and you'll see what I'm talking about once you click on there when you're in a 3D PDF. The thing is, even creating them is very simple from Revit or Navisworks. With the plugins that are available, if you have everything together, it's a one or two button click to create that 3D PDF, and the size is so much smaller. That's as well.
And even AutoCAD, you can create them, I believe.
You can do it from AutoCAD as well. There's two types of files that you can export, and you can just even create them in Review if you want to. If that IFC file or U3D file is exported, you can just create them even direct into Bluebeam themselves. So it was. So go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so for some people who are hearing this and thinking well, that sounds complicated, or doesn't apply to me. I think my engineers would use this a lot and they would have the plugin in AutoCAD, and they would use it for example, a wall panel system or a reception desk or something that they had taken the time to just model in 3D in AutoCAD. And you have all the normal shop drawings we would have. We would have a plan section, we would have section details, everything that was needed. But having that, and you could have an Axon view, but having that 3D PDF so that the guy on the shop floor on his tablet or his computer or his workstation, whatever, could just drag it around and see, oh, that's what this detail is showing me, was such a simple way to utilize tools we had, because there are other software out there that I think people are used to. For example, there's Production Coach, or I forget what the other brand name of it is, where sort of that data can be imported from Microfilm or IX or whatever, and the guys can see each cabinet 3D, right? But that requires a whole other application and a whole bunch of stuff.
Exactly.
And so likely the tools you're already using today, if you have this is something that can be easy and doesn't even need to be on every job, but for those one-off complex items, to be able to just embed that in the PDF. And if you set your guys up in the shop with access to a computer, even a shared computer or workstation or just a tablet, this is a quick and effective way for them to be able to just literally open up a PDF file in the review app and be able to quickly see a 3D context.
Yeah, exactly. We actually did this when a project we're working on here in Vancouver with some pretty funky concierge desks, and I had our Revit draftsman create one, and we included it in the shop drawing submissions that we sent to the architect, and they had never seen this. Now here we're going this, and all of a sudden, wow, here's everybody on the project team is looking at this. We can turn it, we can do a quick section drawing, we can do wireframe, we can do, whatever you want to do. You can change the lighting in it, even if you want to get really good at it, to see what this is going to look like. And it impressed everybody. A simple, and it takes a couple minutes to really to do it. Of course, it's going to depend on the size of your model. If you're going to try and do the whole building, it's going to tax your computer. But if you just need to do a reception desk or some wall paneling, whatever, it's only going to take a couple minutes, and it's not going to tax your system out to do it. Yeah. Right. And now with, you talk about shared computers, we all have CNCs on our floor. They all have computer screens on them. So there you go. Borrow your CNC's computer for 5 minutes and take a look at something. You don't have to do anything different. Of course, even if you want to, there are companies out there that have plan tables now that you can get. They have big large monitors on them, touchscreen monitors with high impact screens that you can have on your shop floor and have guys viewing them on plan tables rather than printed paper, which you're basically limited to, most cases, 11 by 17. It's right. Here you go. And yes, there's a cost to these, and some of them, I think the largest ones are up to about $10,000 US. But what's your ROI on that? How long are you spending printing production packages? How long are you, whatever, right? It's like you got to make that decision for yourself to see if this is a viable thing for you. But this is the tech that's available to us now.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know if this makes sense to anybody listening, but if we have any Harry Potter fans that are familiar with in the movies and the book also, but like in the movies, the newspapers, they would have moving images in them. That's what I always think of when I think of 3D PDFs. In a PDF, you have that viewport of just, it's like looking at the books or the newspapers in Harry Potter, and all of a sudden the image is moving. Like, we have that tech available to us now. It's not magic. It is magic, but
it's available to us in a software you already have in most cases, right? There's so many review users. You're not spending, as a business owner, you're not going to spend any more money than what you're already spending. So that in itself is a good thing, right?
So let's talk about some other examples of ways people can utilize review outside of the office. When we say outside of the office, outside of your estimating, your project manager and team, or your engineers that are kind of the norm. In my experience, it's normally your estimators and your engineers are kind of your power users that are always using it day in and day out. They always have that open in CAD or that in their estimating software. But what are some of the other ways you guys utilize Bluebeam?
Well, Bluebeam talks about it themselves, and they have it again. It's built into the software. It comes with every software license out there. It has for a long, long time, which is the studio portion of Bluebeam. And inside that, there's studio projects and studio sessions. And now if you have upgraded to Review 21, you now also have access to Bluebeam Cloud. So now you have access to this in a web situation. Now, like a little bit of a caveat to that, they're still developing cloud. There's more coming all the time on it. It can't do everything that the desktop version can do, but they have just recently released sessions for the web. So now, so now sessions is kind of, it's linked. And one of the problems that everybody really did have before is if you were using cloud, it wasn't synced to your desktop version. So you didn't have that real-time sync. But now in session it is. Okay, and I know a little bit about what's coming because I'm a Bluebeam user group member. There's more coming. So there's more coming soon. That's all I can tell you. Okay, there's some updates coming very soon. But even so, you can use that in the field with a Wi-Fi connection. But there's no reason you can't use that, a studio project or a studio session, with your shop floor. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the same way that you can do it. And inside that, there's tools that you can use, like our standard tools, like custom statuses or various markup tools that you can use to show where the project is in completion stage. You can do all the same kind of stuff you would normally do. You're just going to tweak your workflow a little bit to say, okay, this particular package has come off the panel saw now and it's ready to go to the edge bender, kind of deal. That you can set that status up. It takes a bit of work, but it can be done. Just stuff like that. Or you can report a quick problem back. You would notice this needs to be, somebody down there can do a quick markup as well. And if it's in session, it's real time. You're going to get a notification. Your engineer is going to get a notification, and we can make that fix or whatever. These are the tools that are available to us for project managers, engineers, and you've probably done it yourself, shop drawing submittals. Mm-hmm. As a whole in the industry, we need to be doing this more in session. That we've all experienced that delay, and there's probably not a bigger delay from the office perspective from the time we submit a shop drawing package to the architect to the time we get red lines back. If we can do that in session, we could probably cut weeks out of a job, out of that time. And you're not filling up, you're not making copies of a drawing set. That drawing's not buried in your email somewhere. It's in a session. So it's available to you 24 hours a day, which you shouldn't be working. Don't do that. But it's available whenever you want to get to it. And same with the whole team that you've put there. It's not limited to, wherever. Yeah. Right?
No, yeah. We at Ductworks, we use sessions religiously. We use projects in conjunction with sessions. And projects is a whole other, it's part of studio. Yeah. It's something we haven't talked about yet, but I think is valuable as well. Yeah. But what we do is every project gets every client gets a project, and every project of that client gets a folder with organization in it. And then as we complete submittals or do submittals, we use sessions to review them internally. And the nice thing about sessions is we've used them even with live review virtual meetings with clients. So, obviously you can get on a video call and you can share your screen, but with sessions, each person on the video call can actually just have that active in real time. I'm marking up, they're marking up, we're all seeing the same thing. Right. It's a whiteboard that you can see and you can track. There's a setting where you can follow. So like I can get on there and say, hey guys, watch what I'm doing. And they can literally set follow. And as I move from page to page, they're going to follow what I'm doing and be able to see. So it's very useful if you're meeting with your client or the architect and be able to walk through some revisions. I used to have my project managers and would say, hey, okay, let's submit this and then let's schedule a meeting with the client so we can go through these together and let's get the approval after this call rather than waiting for them to mark them up and send them to us and answer questions. Let's get on and do a page turn, a virtual page turn, and say, hey, here's the questions we have. They can see the drawings, we can see the drawings, they can mark them up right there, they can stamp them, whatever. But that is vital for us. And then within that, actually the way we use it internally is because we do a QC process where, the drafter reviews their drawings, and then the team lead reviews it, and then we have a QC person review it. And so what's nice is those people can be reviewing the drawings for different things concurrently.
Exactly.
So one person's going through looking at construction, one person's going through looking at formatting, maybe your shop guys or your PM's looking at scope. And it's not like, I still see clients to this day that are like, okay, we're going to put it on a server, I'm going to open it up, put my comments in it, then save it back, then the next person can open, or they have multiple copies of the same thing. So Studio allows this to be the same document, because that drafter or that engineer has to go through and incorporate all that. And if they have to open up multiple files and say, am I merging all these comments? So that's what we use it for. But also in sessions, we're able to, what we do is we have the drafter upload the scope, upload the architecturals. So in Bluebeam, you can actually tile these or open them up adjacent to each other. So I can be looking at the architectural drawings, our shop drawings, and the scope all at the same time. I can see them all at the same time. So as I'm looking through our drawings, hey, did we get the right thing on the scope? Oh, that was excluded. Let me put that note. Now let me look at the details and architecturals. Like, it makes it possible to actually review everything, where in the past that might be you would have all those pieces of paper on your desk. Yeah.
Or you're using some other PDF software. But yeah, exactly. The split screen ability in review, it's one of my favorite functions. We have large monitors, which makes life easy when you're doing stuff like that. It's like, it's a really cool thing. Or even having a separate window on a separate monitor open, it does speed up the process substantially. It's a great tool. And again, it's included with your license of review, and it's available in all levels. So there you go. You're not spending any more money. It's your $450 a year, and this is what you get, right? Yeah. That's it, right?
So the other thing I mentioned is projects. And so, which I think is also very valuable, especially for, if you have field guys accessing things, and the way we've used this in the past. So if you think about, you have Bluebeam Studio. Studio is Bluebeam's cloud drive, right?
Cloud-based
server, And within Studio, you have projects, which think of projects like OneDrive, Dropbox, whatever, right? It's an online server that you can organize with folders and things like that. And then
to let everybody know, in a project, it's not just PDFs in projects. You can drop Excel files, you can drop Revit files, you can drop whatever files in there. It's just an online file storage service. So it's not restricted to PDFs.
And Bluebeam also is not entirely restricted to PDFs to be able to open and view things.
No.
So sessions, what we were just talking about before this was sessions. Sessions is like, there's a partition within Studio. You have projects and sessions. Think of sessions as like a virtual review table. We're all reviewing and marking up drawings and files at the same time. And it's like, the idea is you start it, everybody has a status, and you can close that session at some point, and all the markups are tied in there. Projects is a virtual drive, a virtual server, basically, which you can have all kinds of types of files. And so the nice thing about projects is you have still to this day unlimited storage, I believe.
Yep.
With access to this.
Well, there is a limit, but the limit is absurd. So
Okay. And then, but if you have guys in the field, for example, that have iPads or have computers, or whatever, that they can access this, they can go in. And I used to do this even in the iPad review app, which has its own flaws, but you can check out or Android or Windows tablet or whatever. If you have review on access in the field, you can, while you have service, before you get to the field, you can say, hey, I want offline access to these files. Or if you have service, even better, Wi-Fi or data, you can check out and open files. And the nice thing about that is, for field dimensions, is one use case, is you can train your guys to be able to use Bluebeam Review to take field dimensions as they're in the field, and literally on your shop drawings, open up the file, and they can add markups, and they can even insert photos and images on the PDF. So our guys used to use that as they would go through, and they would have the floor plan or the elevation of the cabinets or whatever, taking field dimensions right on the drawings, and then they would insert a image of, here's what it looks like today. So I could see, it's still raw studs, drywall's not up. So those measurements, yes, they can put, framing to framing or stud to stud or whatever, but I see the image. This is what it was. This is the date when those fields were taken. And you can have versions and store all this there real time. And then when they're done, the engineer can go in and see, right. It's not like what I'm used to is they take a printed set of PDFs or print a set of shop drawings, write on it with a pen in horrible handwriting, and then they go drop it back. And there's one version of field dimensions that somebody has to thumb through, and then the field guy takes it back for the next trip.
Yeah, he scanned it back in somehow, or what takes it.
Lost your audio.
Lost my audio. I didn't do anything.
See if it's me or you. Let's try this again. So I think we were talking about field dimensions in Bluebeam in the field.
Right, and you got guys, they'll do this, they'll either bring back the physical copy, and then somebody has got to go and enter those dimensions somewhere, or they're taking a picture and somebody again is manually updating those field dimensions. That's a problem, and it's a slow process. To be honest with you, one of the downsides to Bluebeam Cloud, which is being worked on, is the lack of the ability to actually do that right now. So if you're going to do that, do it in session rather than using Bluebeam Cloud. There are changes coming, and that's one of the updates, because it's one of the things we all went, hey, what about this ability, just field dimensioning? And Bluebeam kind of missed it on that one, to be honest, and I think they're aware of that. So we're working with them to get that into the process. I also did see this morning on a LinkedIn post from Bluebeam that there's an update coming to the iOS app and the Android app this summer. So just look for that update, and there's probably going to be some more coming. Nice. Some improvements coming to sessions on the web, cloud itself, and there is an update due for June 2 for the desktop version as well.
Yeah. Something else I want to mention, if you're listening to this and thinking about, hey, could I utilize sessions for my client reviews? Your clients don't have to have a paid review license, I don't think, to access them. They can use just the View app. They can access sessions.
That kind of went away in 21.
Did it?
Yeah, they kind of did away with Bluebeam View, but there are abilities for them to do that. Very few though are still out there without review now. Though I mean, it's by far and away the largest PDF viewer within the industry. So chances are they have this ability that they don't. If they don't, encourage them to get it. It's, as software goes, it's cheap. And for what it can do, it is.
Yeah, I know. Switching from perpetual to subscriptions, I think a lot of people get in a fuss about that. But like you said, it is cheap for what it is for the software you get still.
Yeah, I mean, we all know software has a cost, and it has a cost, and it's subscription based. It's not for everybody, but it is what it is. The reality is, it's really not that expensive for what it can do for the license for what it is. It's like, wow.
Yeah. And there are tons of resources. Like you said, there's so many users now today. So U Chapter 2 is the one you talked about, but also there's a lot of, I think you were on, what is it? Bluebeam Coffee Review.
The morning coffee review with ATG software, not to plug them, but we do a weekly podcast webinar with them every Tuesday morning. And I was just on there talking about some advanced estimation techniques that I do, where I export my data out, and I'm actually using an Excel tool called Power Query to clean up my data and run it through my estimation software. So I'm kind of, something I'm learning right now is the joys, trials, and tribulations of Power Query, and I would really encourage you to learn it because it's a lot of fun and it's easy to do in Excel. Especially if you're repeating a process all the time. It's something you should really learn. But there are Bluebeam user groups, and they're all over the country. Most of them are virtual too, so you can have virtual meetings. Just look up Bluebeam bugs in your area. Bluebeam just launched. Yes, it's still in beta, and so it's not quite ready yet. But Bluebeam communities, so us bug members have access to it, and it's working quite well. It should be coming to the masses fairly soon. It's a place to talk, to chat, to your other members. There's make suggestion areas. You can talk with Bluebeam staff. It's actually quite good, and once it hits the open market, I think it'll be quite nice. The other thing too, they are doing some. I've heard that they're going to be doing some around the country one-day kind of mini XCons this year. So look for some announcements on that coming up in the next month or two.
So XCon normally is their annual conference, right?
Right. They haven't done one since 2022. That was the last one down in San Diego. And there's a bunch of us that keep going, bring it back, please, because it's really a lot of fun. It's kind of very similar to Autodesk University, except it's like 1/10 the size. So It's not quite so nuts, but it is a lot of fun. And I really do wish they can see it in the Mencheck group and Bluebeam themselves to bring it back, because it really is a lot of fun and you get to network. I've met some great people. I got to meet, a bunch of guys that I keep on my LinkedIn. I got to meet, and you just get a chance to get together and talk and hang out and sit by the pool bar at the end of the night and just be people, right? It's a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've given Bluebeam a ton of good press, good users. We are, both Doug and I are huge fans of the tool. Not affiliate. I'm not affiliated. We're not making any money off of this. It's just something that we leverage every day in our day-to-day work, and would love to see more people in the millwork industry leveraging this tool because it is extremely valuable. And honestly, it pains me when I see Adobe Acrobat or Foxit or those things, not because those are terrible tools, but they're not built for our industry.
No,
they're not as good as what you could be using, which is Bluebeam is purpose-built and is so powerful.
Yeah, it is. To be fair, and I've said this many times, it's a little lacking for some of the finishing trades. It really is more geared to MEP, but that doesn't mean we can't use it. There's all the tools that we're still using that everybody else is using. We can be utilizing it. One thing, you talk about sessions, and a good friend of mine by the name of, her name's Liz Larson. She's an engineer in Pennsylvania. She's really big into statuses, custom statuses in session. And what you can do with that, once you learn how to set up custom statuses in session, it'll change the way you are using sessions. So it's something that comes up big at XCon and everybody talks about, and you have to preset all your statuses. You can't create new statuses once you get into session. So make sure you're creating them first. But once you get in there, instead of a markup, like 5 different markups that this person's reviewed it or this person's reviewed it, you just change the status, and it will change the way you're using it. So it's something to look into if you're using session right now. Liz has a great blog, so just find her, and she talks about it at length. It's her thing, and she's very passionate about it.
And those are per session you set them.
Yes.
Or you can have them set up, not per user, but the statuses can be set per user as well as
no, it's the status is on the drawing. So in review, you have a status column, which you can set some custom statuses. And there are some standard ones that come with review that you can use, or you can build them custom. and you can set them to change color, to change text when they're updated, or by who's setting them. So there's lots of things out there. There's some really good workflows out there for using custom statuses in session.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and tools and stamps and things are a whole other set of rabbit holes we could go down.
For sure.
It is very powerful, and there's tons of resources out there for people that are interested in finding out more. So, before we go, since we talked last, it's been almost a year, I think. And interested to see your take on these two questions, if they've changed at all. Is there anything you wanted to follow up with first?
Well, no, I think over the next few years, I mean, the advancements that are going to be coming to Bluebeam Cloud, even what I know and what's coming this year, are going to make it better. The tech in this industry is just going to get better. And since 2020, we were forced to adopt the tech in this industry. And as much as we have our big giant CNCs and robots in this industry, the tech side has been lacking. And others have talked about it on this podcast too. The investment in software, it's a tool, and we have to be using the tools that are out there for us. Jillian said it. Jillian from Energy, we'll think nothing of investing hundreds of thousands of dollars in a new CNC and money to train these people. But for some reason, people want to resist going to subscription-based software, where your office people, these are their tools, and they need to learn how to use them properly, invest in the software that's there, and use it. And, it doesn't have to be crazy, but these are our tools. And that's where we're going to see the expansion. I think the last time I mentioned the continuation of 3D, it's going to be a thing. We're seeing it all the time from architects and designers now. They're getting a little fancier with what they're designing. And we need to have the tools to mark those up, to take those off, to show them in 3D to the shop floor, to build them. I mean, it's tricky. We all know it's very tricky to build a twisting piece of wood. That's not something that's easy to do, but we still have to have those tools to be able to work with that. And review is part of that. Our estimating software that's out there, that's what we're going to be. And that's everybody's right. Let's sell the tech on this industry. It's no longer, we're not working with hand planes and routers anymore and that kind of stuff that everybody really likes to work. We're not using dovetail saws anymore. You still got to know how, but we're not doing that anymore. And, when you're in an office environment, you got different tools. Right?
No, I agree. I think software, specifically when you say tech, I think software is the biggest tool that is underutilized in our industry. And it's interesting because everything in our industry really is dependent on software at this point, from the machinery, from the way we communicate with our clients. But in general, we're very slow to adopt and adapt to it and leverage it. And so what I would say is that if you're in any industry, but definitely in millwork, who we're speaking to, if you are able to have somebody on your team that is a nerd that loves software, because there are so many ways that it can be leveraged and they can be the champion of it for your organization. So Doug, you're a great example of what you're talking about. You're exploring the use of Bluebeam and now into Power Query and Excel. And there's so many tools that we're already paying for. You have access to Power Query and Excel and all these things just by nature of your subscriptions with Microsoft and with Bluebeam and all this stuff. And there's so many cheap and free tools that are available today. And I know AI has become like this thing bigger than itself that everybody's like, well, I don't want to miss the bus, but I don't understand it. How do I leverage it? It's already in your life.
Yeah,
if you use Siri, if you use Google, if you use Alexa, all these things, right? There's versions of that, all the way down to there's so many tools today. For example, like there's note takers. If you have lots of virtual meetings, things like Gong or Fathom, or even Microsoft has their own.
Yeah.
Fathom is free. You can sign up for Fathom. And so I think just be thinking about Energy is another great example of like there's applications and software that are at our fingertips that if you're already paying for it, make sure that you're actually leveraging it to its fullest that works for you. Doesn't mean you need to use everything in it, but you need to use as much as can be beneficial for you and your team as possible, and have people that are experts at it and are pushing the boundaries, because labor is a problem for everybody. And the past 20, 30 years, machinery has been how we've kind of eased that pain.
Yeah.
Today, it's software.
Yeah. And you mentioned the AI too. Bluebeam's got, I don't know if anybody's tried this yet, but the last update now has an automatic alignment points when you're doing like overlays. So if you're inside of Review, there's an overlay pages feature. And before, you had to go through a process and pick 3 points and make sure they all matched and you got everything right. And everybody found it quite tedious. Well, they've changed this now so you can let the computer pick the points. It actually works pretty well. So this one of the little pain points they released in version, I guess 21.1. They released that. Give it a shot. Overlay pages is one thing that we should be using. If you're not using it in Review, walk through the help menu, learn how to do an overlay pages so you can see your changes that's going on. But yeah, and there's more coming, especially in Bluebeam Cloud with regards to AI. And I think you'll be pretty impressed. When we saw it in the bug meeting, we were like, wow, okay, this is kind of cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Doug, I appreciate you jumping in here and again being willing to share with everybody, about Bluebeam and about your experience and ways we're able to leverage it. If people are interested in finding out more or just chatting with you, what's the best way they can reach out?
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn. That's the best way. I've lots of contacts. I've built a good network of Review contacts. You can find me at UChapter2. There's a Facebook user group I'm involved in. Those are the best ways. Come join us in the MCR. They are Tuesday mornings, 8:30 Central. Yeah, for me, it's like 6:30 in the morning, 6:30 Pacific. So there you go. Learn from these guys. You just go through the help menu if you want to learn. But for me, the best way is LinkedIn by far. Right?
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, thanks, Doug. We'll link all those in the show notes so that everybody can get there quickly and easily. And we'll definitely have you on again so we can continue to dive deeper.
Glad to come in anytime.
Thanks, Doug.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Do you want to stay up to date about industry insights, new content, and our community of millworkers? Go to ductworksmw.com to sign up for our newsletter. I'll see you in the next episode of Verify in Field.